Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Crypto 101 show, where we dive into the world of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, blockchain, and all the technology with it. Whether you're experienced or a beginner to crypto, our goal is to break down complex concepts and make it easy for you to understand the basics. From Bitcoin to altcoins, we'll cover it all in a way that's easy to digest and provide listeners with the knowledge and understanding they need to make informed decisions and better critical thought. Sit back, relax, and let's simplify your understanding of cryptocurrencies on the Crypto 101 show. Part 7. What would a full Bitcoin transition actually look like? The scenario-based what-if episode. I need to start off by saying this is not financial advice, so if you're looking for that, this show isn't for you. The content of this podcast episode is for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed here are not meant to be taken as financial investment or any other advice. Welcome back to the Bitcoin series part 7. What if tomorrow the world stopped running on dollars and started running on Bitcoin? What happens to your pension, your mortgage, your 401k? Would the system collapse into chaos or shift into something new? And more importantly, who gets left behind? In this episode, we're stepping out of theory and into a full-on scenario. What would a total Bitcoin transition actually look like? We're talking legacy finance, personal debt, government resistance, and the raw winners and losers of a monetary reset. No hype, no fear. Just an honest look at what it might feel like if everything really did change. Let's get into it. Question 1. The fiat foundations. What happens to pensions, 401ks, and debt? Let's start where it gets personal. Retirement savings, debt, mortgages, the lifeblood of middle-class financial life. In a Bitcoin transition, these fiat-based structures don't just quietly carry over. They either get restructured, erased, or revalued. Let's break that down. Pensions and 401ks. What's at risk? Pensions and retirement accounts are mostly backed by fiat-dominated assets, bonds, mutual funds, treasury notes. That means if the dollar weakens or collapses during a Bitcoin shift, those assets lose real-world purchasing power fast. In a best-case scenario, some pension funds adapt early, rebalancing into Bitcoin to hedge. In a worst-case scenario, massive devaluation. Promises made in yesterday's dollars can't be kept in tomorrow's harder money. 401ks are like a coupon, redeemable at a store that may no longer exist in a few decades. Reality check. You don't really have the money in your 401k. You have a claim on a future denominated in a currency that may not survive a global monetary shift. What about debt, mortgages, credit cards? This one's trickier and interesting. If debt is dominated in fiat and fiat collapses or inflates into worthlessness, that debt becomes easier to pay off if you earn or hold Bitcoin. But here's the twist. The creditor loses. The lender gave you $300,000 for a mortgage that might now be worth a few satoshis. That dynamic cannot hold forever. In a mature Bitcoin standard, lenders would shift to denominating future loans in Bitcoin, creating new dynamics, harder to get credit, lower risk of inflation, and more responsibility on both sides of the loan. The big takeaway? A full Bitcoin transition wouldn't just change how we pay for things. It would completely reshape how we value things. Think about pensions, 401ks, mortgages. These are all promises made in dollars, a currency that's always losing value little by little. That slow erosion is actually built into the system. Bitcoin flips that upside down. It's hard money, deflationary by design, and that means the old numbers, like $3,000 a month when you retire or 3% interest for 30 years, starts to fall apart. Those promises were based on a system where the government could print money to fill in the gaps. But in a Bitcoin economy, printing isn't an option. So everything gets repriced: retirement income, debt payments, even how credit works. And the truth is, some of those promises just won't hold up under harder money. They'll need to be rewritten, restructured, or in some cases, abandoned. That might sound scary, but it's also honest, because if you're relying on a system that only works as long as inflation does, then maybe it's not such a solid foundation after all. For many, that might feel like collapse. For others, it's liberation from a system of future IOUs built on inflation and trust erosion. Fiat denominated debt might feel like monopoly money if the board game rules suddenly change. Question 2: would we see chaos or a smoother transition? So let's say it begins the shift. Bitcoin starts moving from an alternative asset to the default monetary standard. The dollar loses dominance, central banks lose control. What happens now? Scenario 1: a chaotic transition. If this shift happens suddenly, let's say triggered by a collapse in trust, a major debt crisis, or runaway inflation, we're talking about chaos. Governments might respond with capital controls, shutting down exchanges, freezing withdrawals, or banning self custody outright. Banks could fail, markets could crash, there might be bank runs, unemployment spikes, and political unrest. It wouldn't just be economic, it would be emotional. Fear, anger, confusion, because when people feel like the rules changed overnight, they panic. Scenario 2: a gradual, bottom up shift. But what if the shift is slow and voluntary? What if people one by one begin to opt out of the old system, first as savers, then as spenders, builders, and citizens? You might see a dual economy form: fiat for taxes and bills, Bitcoin for savings and peer to peer commerce. Over time, businesses start pricing in Satoshis. Workers ask to be paid in Bitcoin. Local communities adopt it before national governments even realize what's happening. That kind of transition could be surprisingly smooth, not painless, but organic. Think about how quickly people switch from cash to Venmo or cable to streaming. We adapt faster than we give ourselves credit for if we're given a choice. What most likely will happen? A mix of both. Truth is, it'll probably be both: some chaos, some clarity. Some nations will resist, others will embrace it. Some people will thrive, others will be left behind unless we help them. But every time a system changes, it feels like disorder until a new order emerges. The key is how prepared we are, how much we understand, and whether we're building bridges or just stacking coins. Question 3: who wins and who loses? In every system shift, someone wins and someone loses. That's not cynicism, it's reality. And if the world transitions to Bitcoin, that reality hits hard. The winners, early adopters, the unbanked and underbanked, builders, educators, communities, and nations who opt in early. Let's break each one down. Early adopters, people who took the risk early, who saved in Bitcoin, learned how it worked, and held on to it, will come out ahead. In a new monetary world, conviction gets rewarded. The unbanked and underbanked. Bitcoin doesn't care if you have a credit score. It doesn't care what country you're from. For people locked out of traditional finance, Bitcoin is a way in. Builders, educators, and communities. Those who created wallets, wrote explainers, built lightning apps, or simply taught their neighbor how to self-custody, they help write the new rules. Nations who opt in early. Countries like El Salvador and possibly more to come that adopt Bitcoin as legal tender can get first mover advantage, a hedge against fiat collapse. Now the losers: fiat power structures, high leverage institutions and individuals, pension funds and retirement systems, and people that are unprepared or uninformed. Let's break each one of these down. Fiat power structures: central banks, debt-based governments, and financial middlemen lose their control over money printer. Inflation becomes impossible. So does quiet manipulation. High leverage institutions and individuals. Those relying on easy credit, low interest rates, or never-ending growth will find Bitcoin uncooperative. Pension funds and retirement systems. Systems built on decades of fiat assumptions may collapse, leaving people holding promises the math can't support. people unprepared or uninformed. Those who don't understand Bitcoin or were never given the tools to learn risk being left behind. This is why education and access are everything. Let me take a moment to step out of the thought experiment and just be real with you. If, and it's a big if, a full Bitcoin transition does happen, it won't be easy. I don't think we can sugarcoat that. You're talking about tearing up the blueprint of a global economy and rewriting it with a brand new set of rules. Rules that most people don't even understand yet. The early stages would be rough. People who rely on fiat pensions or fixed incomes, they feel the pain. Governments that depend on inflation to manage their debt, they resist. Banks, credit systems, public trust, all of that would go through a kind of detox. Honestly, I think it would feel a lot like quitting a long-term addiction. There'd be withdrawal, anger, maybe even some serious crisis moments. But if we survive the initial storm, we'd come out on the other side with something more stable, more transparent, more honest. Bitcoin doesn't solve all our problems. It doesn't fix human nature or injustice or systematic inequality by itself. But it does remove one layer of distortion, the one that lets a few people quietly control the money that governs everyone else's lives. So, would a full Bitcoin transition be good or bad? I think the truth is, it would be both. Painful in the short term, empowering in the long term, but only if we're willing to learn, adapt, and carry each other through it. Next episode, in Part 8, we will discuss Bitcoin and human rights. Can it help protect freedoms? Until then, stay curious, stay grounded. I want to be extremely upfront that I try my best to leave all of my opinions out of this. I know this is very condensed and simplified, but I want you to gain your own understanding and beliefs and not be persuaded by me. I hope this helped you gain a better grasp of it. Please remember to share, follow, and subscribe to our mailing list and to your favorite podcast app for future episodes so you can gain more with your crypto knowledge. If this sparked something in you or made you question what's possible, I'd love to hear about it. And if you found this valuable, share it, tag someone who needs to hear it, or just sit with it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Crypto 101 Show. If you would like to join our email list, email us at thecrypto101show@gmail.com. For more helpful tips, subscribe in your favorite podcast app and leave a review so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.